Hello everyone. The following presentation is a brief summary and analysis of Chapter 20, the last chapter of Oscar Wilde's novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Dorian walks home through the streets of London, thinking about all the places he has been and the terrible things he has done there. He no longer finds any joy in the pleasures he once enjoyed. As he heads home, he wonders if Lord Henry is right about disregarding one's soul and morality, and rather that one should just focus on pleasure and beauty without worrying about any consequences. He desperately wishes he could feel as innocent as he did when he was young. He regrets the wish he made that the portrait should grow old and ugly while he remains beautiful and youthful, and now thinks it would be better if he had faced the consequences of his actions in a normal, fair way. Dorian realizes that a life without consequence can turn a person into something monstrous. Without limits, each small bad choice has led to another, and he has lost his true self. He now wants to live a normal, natural life, not one that tries to escape time or consequences. Dorian picks up a mirror that Lord Henry once gave him, and he remembers something an old lover said. The world is changed because you are made of ivory and gold. The curves of your lips rewrite history. Dorian hates his appearance now. The youthfulness he once valued so much feels like an enemy to him. He tries not to think about the past. Since he no longer fears his crimes being discovered, he decides to start a new life. He hopes that if he lives well, the portrait might slowly start returning to normal. This shows how Dorian's attitude has completely changed. He now sees his youth and beauty, which was once his greatest gift, as something that has led to his downfall. It also highlights his naive hope that he can undo the past simply by choosing to live better, without truly facing what he has done. Filled with hope about his new plan and resolution, Dorian hurries upstairs to the schoolroom to look at the portrait. When he uncovers it, his fear and paranoia come rushing back. The figure in the painting looks worse than ever before. Old, ugly, and utterly corrupted, its face twisted by cruelty and sin, bearing the full weight of every terrible thing Dorian has done. He begins to doubt his decision to be a good person, wondering if even that comes from selfish pride. As his anxiety grows, Dorian notices new red stains on the painting, like blood. He thinks about confessing his crimes to the authorities, but he realizes that he himself no longer understands his own motives. In a sudden burst of panic and desperation, Dorian grabs the knife he used to commit Basil's murder. Overcome with rage, Dorian attacks the portrait, believing it to be the source of all his suffering and misery. As he stabs at it, a terrible cry echoes through the house, alarming his servants. They rush up to the schoolroom, but because Dorian locked the door, they have to force their way in through an outside balcony. Inside, they are met with a shocking sight. An old, horribly disfigured body is lying on the floor, so changed it is barely recognizable as Dorian Gray, while on the wall hangs the painting of a young, beautiful man, untouched by age or corruption. In the end, Dorian believes the only way to get rid of the sins shown in the portrait, the representation of his soul, is to destroy it. But this is still a selfish choice, an easy escape. Dorian tries to erase his sins by blaming the portrait for his own weakness. His weakness lies in his inability to take responsibility and face the consequences of his actions. Instead of enduring guilt and slowly changing through consistent moral choices and being a decent human being, he looks for a quick way out. He gives into despair, vanity, and fear, choosing escape over real moral effort. In doing so, he destroys himself, becoming the final victim of his own corruption. Thank you for watching this presentation on Chapter 20 of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is the last chapter in the novel. Thank you for all of your support in watching my presentations, the likes, comments, and subscriptions. I hope my presentations on this novel have been helpful in your preparations for your assessments and exams.